Welcome, my friends. As usual, we can begin with a comfortable settling through the body into a quiet, seated, balanced position. This pinsuo, this just comfortable sitting. Make sure that your weight is in the appropriate location. The center of your hip very slightly higher than the center of your knees, or as high as it needs to be for you to feel comfortable. It's all fine. Lower legs in a relaxed position beneath you, settled so that you feel stable. Gently flexing at the hip joint to lean forward and back, rather than rounding or collapsing or arching. Instead, we let the weight continue forward until the weight settles just in front of the sitting bones here. Crown of the head floating up, the shoulders soft, elbows gently bent. The breath comfortable, easy. See if you can avoid leaning to one side or the other, unless, of course, you're just built that way. That's okay, too. And we simply allow ourselves to become neutral to the world. We are simply here, comfortable, aware. We let ourselves simply be here without trying to be anything in particular. If you notice yourself hanging on to the past, maybe something that happened earlier today or some imaginary future, because all past and future is just imaginary at this point. There's the sense of momentum that we have going through us, as though we're carrying ourselves forward into the future. You want to let that settle. Just be here. You're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything. Only here. If you'd like, every time you exhale through the mouth, you can soften into the present moment. One way of thinking about physical tension is that it is movement that's trapped in the body. It's things that we think we should be doing or that we attempted to do once and that got trapped in us. Things that we think we are that we're not. And so you exhale and let all of that go, releasing it from the body, letting your body be here instead of stuck in between something and something else. No fixed positions in your body. You're simply free and fluid. You're still, but not because you're holding yourself still. You're still because you've let go of everything, which allows you to settle. No fixed positions in the body. No fixed positions in your mind. If there's any particular ideas that you're gripping onto, you let that soften as well. And so that you're just here. You're not attached to any particular idea, not a memory, not a thought, not an identity. It all just falls away. And what's left is that you're here. And that's all. You are not a thought about an idea of a favorite thing or a unexpressed wish. That's not you. Let it all go. Softening and opening. Your whole body settles through. Your mind settles through. More and more allowing your body to become settled and free, soft and easy. Emotionally, you become comfortable, peaceful, contented. Just here. The mind becomes clear like clear water is clear. Free and empty. Perfectly aware, vividly aware, yet not grasping or doing and spinning. You're just here. Now that we're past that halfway point in the practice, I want to lean more upon you to settle more deeply, to feel and see and experience things more clearly than you did before. More grounded, more attentive. Once you have this form, at some point you don't need to add more techniques or more movements to add to the form. At some point you know the form well enough. Now you deepen the quality. That looks like a quieter mind, a more connected awareness, softer body, a more friendly, open heart. These are the qualities that get deeper and deeper, and that change this practice. Remembering what it means to learn how to soften. As you soften the body, notice the areas that are tight and let them go, but also noticing the areas that are already soft and let that softness spread. If you focus too much on tension, you tend to become more tense. Instead, if you notice how soft your hands are able to become, maybe you notice one strip of softness in the side of your neck and say to yourself, wow, that feels really nice and soft. And then you start to allow that softness and warmth to spread to other areas. That's a bit easier. Not because we're pushing our mind, but because we're continuing to let go. We're continuing to get out of the way, including our expectations about our body. And again, like we say every day, for those of you who are joining us for the first time or who are new enough to this practice that it feels confusing, please do check down below for a link to an introductory class. It's free, you are welcome to take it, and that will give you a better sense of how to join us during these live sessions. Oh, welcome, Del. Nice to have you here. When your emotions begin to arise, it doesn't matter where they come from. You don't try to subvert them. You don't try to force them away or to deal with them. You certainly don't chase after them and stoke them up. All you do is notice that they're being pumped up. See if you can spot where they're being pumped up from and simply soften that process. Let it go. And then the emotions do this thing where it takes sometimes a few minutes, but they kind of settle down, like heat that slowly dissipates. You're not trying to force yourself to feel different. You simply stop making yourself tense. And the sooner you can learn to spot those tendencies, those patterns in you, the easier it is to let them go before they turn into actual problems. Like in most people's lives, there may be nothing more damaging and destructive than anger, rage attacks. Super damaging to our bodies, very damaging to everything and everyone around us. But of course, it's very difficult to let them go once we're in the middle of some mental emotional storm. It's not too late at that point. Best thing to do at that point is walk away. Go for a walk. Let it all cool down. But far better than that is to learn to feel that stuff before it comes and let that go. And then once you can do that, and your life is now 100% better, then you let go of that cycle before it starts. And that continues back and back until you're at the ground of your being where there are no problems. But we start by learning to soften before it gets too bad. We always wait until it's too late, until it's too strong, too difficult. And then we say, oh, I can't do this. Instead, we create a very peaceful atmosphere like this. I talk to you in a soothing voice, my dulcet tones. And we practice being still. And in these moments, now you practice letting go. You practice being centered. Don't wait until it's hard. Learn the skills while it's easy. Oh, fancy. You're so nice.
Are you good on tea?
I am, thank you. You did come in here just to light a candle?
Yeah.
You are amazing. Smells so nice. She brought one of her favorite scented candles in here and lit it and put it behind the camera over there. She's not joining us today, but she wanted to let her scent linger in the room. Very nice person. And to use Mel as an example, it's moments like these that you cultivate a relationship. You give gifts and you're kind and you connect when it's easy. And that way, if it gets a little bit harder, you've already developed those pathways and those habits. You didn't wait until things blew up to go give a gift or say something nice. Make it an all the time thing. Mel's a good example. She brought me tea, she brought me a candle, just because she wanted to. And there's something so beautiful about that, because there was no reason to, other than that she wanted to. And if we can behave that way toward ourselves as well, why are we sitting here being kind to ourselves? Are we doing it because we desperately want to change and we think there's something wrong with us? Can you adjust that mentality instead to let yourself just be kind? To love yourself for the sake of loving yourself? Oops. I realized I skipped the face. Take the time to deeply settle. Unless you're currently fighting off a cold, in which case maybe don't deeply settle. But we want to lean into more this capacity to allow your awareness to condense and gather on its own, like a stone sinking through water. Gathers into the middle space here. This middle space is the bottom of the pond. It's where everything settles to. Maybe you can feel for just a moment what it would be like to let this be the center of your awareness, rather than living always from the center of your head or the center of your chest, depending on your personality type. Be in your body and make that the main level of experience. Letting go. Softening over the front of your shoulder. If you tend to have a cough, this space just up in here where the chest kind of runs into the shoulder and through this area, you want to allow this to be warm and released. Lung 1, lung 2. And later you can spend time softening the center of the chest, just as a way to help continually open. When we cough a lot, we tend to get a lot of constriction through these lines. Be kind in your touch, in your mind. Be gentle. Staying present. If your mind wanders off, remember how to get back. Don't use force. Don't control the mind. Controlling the mind and using force on it is the thing that's supercharging the mind in the first place. It's the mind that controls the mind. Just stop that. Stop that cycle. Learn how to relax the mind. It takes effort to go away from the present moment. Settle here. And I recognize that for people who are exhausted, that isn't quite true. If you're exhausted, your mind tends to drift into dreamland because you're half asleep already. And the only cure for that, of course, is to rest and sleep and restore your chi. There's no technique that can replace sleep. If you've been following us and took the time to learn the channels, the main channels on the arms and legs, as we continue, you don't have to know specifically the point that you're on, but if you can, please do notice the area of the channels that you might be working on. You don't have to think hard about it. Just maybe take note every time we move around what channel you might be finding yourself on. If you do this through the whole body, very soon it will become second nature. Again, if you're sick, if you're coughing, or maybe you're sniffly, rubbing this point down here might help. The point here in the center, lung 5, is particularly good for coughing. This point here, in the center of this section of the thumb, that line between the bone and the musculature here, on top of the thumb, that's a wonderful point for sore throat. This point here, large intestine 4 that we've been working on. It's a wonderful point for nasal congestion, really great for when people are catching a cold in the first place. Still, in the context of this form, we don't want to heavily stimulate these points. But maybe after a couple hours, after finishing this set, you can get in there and use some strong stimulation to help open certain pathways in your body. I only say that because I know that several people that might be joining us are not feeling well. Tis the season. I forgot which channel pointer finger goes to. Pointer finger is the large intestine. Remember to see if you can create a good memory image for that. There's a lot of good ones. Even if you just imagine going up to a friend, pointing your finger at them and saying, "You look constipated," or something like that. That's this finger. Makes it easy to remember. If you want to develop any level of proficiency in Qigong or these internal methods, you have to have some grounding in traditional Chinese medicine. It's just how it works. It'd be like studying athletics or calisthenics or something, but not knowing all the muscles or the anatomy. It just wouldn't work. And again, lung 5, if you find yourself with a cough, especially a phlegm cough, wonderful point. Just on the thumb side of that tendon in the elbow bend. Continually taking the time to let your awareness soften back into the present moment. Easing open the body. Gentle, quiet. Lung 7, lung 9, lung 10, along this line right here. All very useful if you're not feeling well. If you've got a cough, fever and chills, the sore throat, all of that fun stuff, congestion. Good time to make sure these areas are open. Remember, it's not the channels that are sick. It's just the channels are part of the energy flow that relates to your body. And so you are stimulating these channels and these points to have an impact on the rest of your body, on your lungs, on other qualities going on. Large intestine 4. Really good for congestion. I might continue to use this class the next, 48 days of the class to teach the channels in more depth, channels in the body, layers of channels a bit, just as a way to help educate people. If I can get a sense if people are interested and they're continuing to learn, or I might just do it for future people who will watch this video and take the time to learn. And so for those people who are interested, please do let me know if you're taking it seriously and making the attempt to learn. tiny bit more quiet. Your emotions perhaps 1% less chaotic. That's still good progress. That's the direction we want to go. However settled this is, you can make your goal for the next 50 days to make this level of your new normal, your new everyday. So rather than being the deepest you can sink when you really try, let that be the ceiling for your next level of normal. So you never are more agitated than when you're the most settled now. That's not only possible, it's actually a quite common level of attainment. You want to continually deepen in this direction because those levels of depth continue and continue. So you have to go that direction inside yourself, into stillness, into openness. That's what progress in these methods looks like. Continually letting go. So again, softening this whole area, especially if you're dealing with a cough, the center point of the chest, for men, more or less, in that space between the nipples. For people who have more breast tissue, of course, it's higher. But it's often a sore point, tanzhong, this center of human point here, Ren 17. But also all of the little points just off to the sides that are located in the ribs. There's kidney channels and stomach channels that run through here. And if you find that any of them are particularly tender, then as we do these practices, spend some time and really soften all of that open. You're not trying to reach deep. You're not trying to force things to change. You're just being gentle. Be tender on the tender areas. Softening open. Warming and releasing. For a lot of people, as they do this work here, you'll often hear a change in their voice. It may become softer or clearer as their chi sinks through this space. And if you find that you've gotten raspy and tight and your energy's up here and you start to settle and suddenly there's this ringing clarity in your voice, you're moving the right direction. Opening and softening the solar plexus, and then softening the center of the belly between the navel and the solar plexus. Right now, I'm just using the base of my thumb. You can also use your fingertips if that's more comfortable, or your palm. Actually, the palm feels nice today for me. This is a point called Ren 12 that we're working on. Fantastic point for nourishing digestion. Remember that your shoulder is not coming up, you're not leaning. Your shoulder blade stays softened down the back. You turn your waist slightly, being gentle. Crown of your head is still released upward through that Chong Mai we were working on. Your awareness soaking into that space between the ribs. Actively generating this feeling of being friendly, kind-hearted, listening. Each practice that we do has a different feel. It cultivates a slightly different quality in our nature. Standing posture often develops this sense of deep stability and stillness, depending on how you practice it. Seated meditation posture draws you into this, like that stone sitting at the bottom of the well. Very quiet. Stillness within stillness. When I practice the guqin instrument, you're listening deeply and developing a very specific kind of respectful refinement. It's a certain very delicate quality. When you practice this set, you're listening and you're being warm. Warmth is a big thing. Soft. Soft in your body, soft in your approach. Cultivating gentleness, presence. This very deep, friendly, loving quality. Loving touch. After you practice this set, you want that particular quality, that vibration through your whole body. You should be humming with it. I agree with you, Del. Yeah, that quality of sensitivity and clarity, the ability to see ourselves more clearly, that really is a superpower. And I've talked with so many people over the years who really what they want is some kind of superpower. One gentleman once told me that his aspirations were to deflect Superman's punch and to, I can't remember, to launch people through the air and to be able to lift a huge amount. There's a whole series of these things. And this was in the beginning of my practice. And I was so confused because I thought that what people wanted was to feel calm and centered, comfortable with themselves. Confidence that comes not from being superpowered and stronger than everybody, but the kind of self-confidence that comes from not needing to prove yourself to anybody. You're just perfectly you. Like those qualities of simply being settled and here. It's one of the reasons I loved my whole life hanging out with really old people. Old people over 40, no. Old people and like in their 80s or 90s, especially when I was working in hospice, doing some healthcare and nursing work. These people that are just totally themselves, perfectly comfortable being themselves. That's a superpower. That skill of just being, oh, this is me. I wear my purple pants because I like them. They don't care. And that quality of presence that's possible when you're just not worried about things because you're simply you and you experience your life. You appreciate how good the bread pudding is or whatever you're eating because you know that any day you could be gone. Every breath could be your last one. And so you appreciate every breath, every interaction that you have with these people. Often they're so happy to be there with you because they recognize that maybe tomorrow they'll cease to have experiences altogether. And the rest of us are so worried about what other people think and, what if, and any day now I get fired and then this happens and then, what will my mom think of me or something? And that ability to just go, and you're just here. Superpower for sure. And you don't have to wear a cape or do anything special to get it. You just let go of all the stuff that's in the way. And then you just get to be here. And then from there, decide to do things. Then you can plan your life because now you're no longer planning it based on fears and worries and what somebody else said and a billboard that I saw. Wait until you're settled, then make choices based on you just being you. It's such a nice feeling. There's a wonderful quote that I actually had it on the back of one of my fun random t-shirts that I make. I've been making t-shirts for a long time. And in my mind, it's from the Changqing Jing Jing, but it's a story about three oldsters, three old guys. And they were visiting a festival, and they don't get to see each other very often, but they're hanging out, looking down from up high on this festival of young people having fun. And they're enjoying themselves. And they look at this life that they've been living together for a long time. And one says, we're all getting so old. I don't know if we'll be able to come back next year, or this will be our last festival. And they pause, and that soaks in. And the other one says, actually, maybe that's thinking a bit too much, too far in the future. I don't know if I'll get through the end of this day. And they laugh. And then the guy pauses and looks seriously about it and says, honestly, maybe that's thinking too far in the future. The way that I'm feeling, I don't know if I'll get to the end of this breath. And the point that's being made in the story is about don't wait or waste your time to start cultivating these principles of settledness, cultivating the Tao, cultivating these deeper methods. Because it is the nature of the mind to forever say, I'll do that later. I have this really important thing to think about right now. And if you ever have had those experiences, you will know that that process never ends. It doesn't end ever. The mind will always come up with the next really important thing you have to be worrying about right now. So you just, at some point, have to be willing to cut that thread and say, okay, I'm no longer chasing whatever my mind tells me to chase. I'm no longer going to cultivate the things that the random crazy world around me tells me to worry about. I'm going to center myself on something that I think matters more, whatever that is to you. Because at some point, 100% of the time, I tell this to people in my clinic, that with every illness, 100% of the time, there will come a moment when you look around and you will be willing to do anything to be healthy again. You will change anything in order to regain what you lost. 100%. And yet, even knowing that, people will often not make those changes before they lose that thing. Even knowing that at some point they will wish they had more than they've wished anything before. And the same is true with these cultivations. It's all the same principle. At some point, you will look around at the things that you are spending all of your energy on worrying about and realize that it's just wasted time. All those times you spend arguing with people that you loved with. It's more than just wasted time. And only you will know what that right thing is, what the actual thing that you've been avoiding is, that you've been putting off, that actually has meaning to you, whatever that is for you. But you could just decide to be done with worrying about what the world has told you, what your mind tells you, and just cultivate and pursue the thing that you know is right for you. That's kind of the moment when we finally grow up. And my recommendation is to avoid trying to do it all at once. Instead, slowly make changes to your life if you need to. Let people know that you're making changes. If you do it all at once, like I did, you sort of destroy your life. You lose your job and your friends and the things that you do because you stop. So it's better to gently ease your system into this thing that you know is right for you, whatever that is for you. But do it, and do it soon, because time will not last as long as you imagine it will. Yeah, Del, I agree with your circle that in every single moment, there is a choice, in a sense, depending on how you define choice, to do something that is nourishing or to do something that is destructive. In Taoism, we call it yang-sheng. It's this nourishing life quality. Also the name of our Instagram page. And that's very freeing because it's always right now. You're always free to just pivot as best you can. Of course, life has momentum to it, especially if you have kids or a job or these things. But there are also moments when we're fortunate enough to be free to make changes. And in those moments, you have to be present enough to know that there's an opportunity to change. So you change. And then you change again. You make the choice to do something more nourishing, whatever that is for you. Sometimes it's just that you stop doing something. If right now when I say you stop doing something bad for you, if a thing pops into your head that you know is not good for you, then just stop it. Just stop. Stop doing the toxic thing, whatever it is that's bad for you. Just stop. And that's all. Be careful if it's going to hurt somebody else whenever you stop it. But you just stop. I have faith in you. And if when I say there's that one super nourishing thing that you could do for yourself, whatever that is. For most people, there's at least one thing that pops into their head, a thing that they know is really good for them. They've known for a long time, they just maybe don't find time for it. Whatever that is. Just add that in. Just do it. And that's all. Now you've made a huge difference in your life. You took away a toxic thing, you added something good and nourishing. And you might find that your life is now 100% different than it was before. It's funny how often I've noticed just through clinic life, working with people, that sometimes people just need to be given permission to do the thing that they know is good for them. Oftentimes it's rest. In our culture, at least the culture that I'm from, rest is considered like a bad thing somehow. It makes you lazy or something. You're always supposed to be doing something. And so rest becomes considered a bad thing. And so when they have a doctor come up and tell them, rest is good, you should rest more, there's this change that comes over them. You mean I can rest? Yes, you can rest. So for whoever it is, I don't know who you are that needs to hear this, you should rest. Rest enough. Get enough rest, whatever that looks like for you. And it will change. So you're just open to listening to see how much rest you need, and that's okay. You should rest. There you are. For other people that somehow need permission to stop doing that thing that they know is bad for them, just stop. Sometimes they just need someone to tell them to stop. Here I am. Just stop. Don't do it anymore. Don't ever do it again. Just be done with it. And there you are. Life doesn't have to be complicated. We just make it that way. Make sure that you're moving all the way up to the base. Lengthening your spine upward, continuing to lengthen. Don't collapse. Using your feet without cramping them or tensing them. You're just allowing them to be more lively. You're not holding your breath or compressing around your breath. Spine stays long. Continue around the circle with your spine. With your legs, similarly, your hips and thighs are soft. They lengthen that way. Softening and softening. Remember, we're not pushing and pulling on ourselves. We're just softening the sides of our body. We're releasing the spine. Everything is loose and easy. Don't grip onto anything. Continually letting go. You're just like a toddler sitting loose and free on the ground, not hanging on to anything. Your feet are soft. Just be soft. Remember, you want to gather up the saliva that's in your mouth, swallow it down. Perhaps you can trace the path of that movement all the way down, as though it settles down behind your navel in the center of your body. And again, I can see we're being joined by a lot of people. I'm not sure who's here. Just as a reminder, if this is your first time here and you don't know the set, please check down below in the comment section for an introductory video to this particular practice. Swallowing down, settling your awareness, being soft. Body. Between the navel and the spine, if possible, and the very least, a little bit deep to the navel. if you'd like to, you're welcome to lay flat. Remember that you can place something beneath your knees or your head, under your back or your elbows, any place that requires a little bit of extra support. Taking just a couple of minutes to settle and release, letting your body sink to the floor if you decide to lie down. At some point when you're comfortable, you will find yourself back into a seated position if you want. But you're certainly welcome to stay laying flat if that's what's comfortable for you. Allowing your awareness to slowly spread from the center. First, to let your awareness condense as it settles in the center, the way that dew condenses in a leaf. It gathers. And then you allow your awareness to expand and spread through the rest of your body, especially through this level of the membrane structure that we've been working on. And then out into the space around you. But maintain that sense of anchored, settled quality in the middle. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I can hang out for a few minutes. Thanks, Del. It's nice having you here. Thanks for the great questions. Yeah, I'm glad that you're feeling more integrated. We just become more and more ourselves, more present, less reactive to everything. I think most people spend their lives bouncing around like a pinball from one thing to the next. And so much of Daoist philosophy is about just return to being stable for like 10 seconds. Stop reacting to the world for 10 seconds. Become rested well enough to make a good decision. Eat well enough so we're not starving ourselves. Like just for one moment, become like return to zero. Just the basic person. We're not in constant fight or flight, screaming for our lives. And in that moment of basic human clarity, we return and we are able to make good choices and have a space. And so it's so much discussion is about, again, like I was mentioning, these superpowers. But the very first superpower to get in this world filled with madness is just the ability to kind of just be here and not be constantly freaking out about something. It's really amazing. The bar is that low. That's the bar that's the high bar for most people. That's what they're trying to get to one day, just to be the most basic level of themselves. And we want to get there as soon as we can so that we can actually cultivate something real. Otherwise, every single thing that we cultivate is based on that turbulent state of madness that we walk around with all the time. There has to be a better way. There must be. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your practice.